I always tell people try not to let yourself get into that fearful state because it's
Mm,
like once you start getting really fearful and really spooked and your fears start running away with you, it kind of cuts down your psychic defenses. When you are in a very fearful state, your electromagnetic field, your aura, actually is very permeable, and
yes.
they can get you. So it's kind of like a child or a bully that wants to kind of poke at you and get you to react.
Welcome back or welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I am here with a special guest who is not a stranger to this channel, my good friend James McMillin. So everybody say hi to James.
Hi, folks. Really nice to be here. It's always a pleasure to be working with Pixie Dust, and I know it's going to be a wonderful session. I totally look forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, I'm very happy to have you on the channel again, and hopefully viewers will enjoy this little segment. So today's video is kind of not really a spin-off or addition to the one I did with Arjuna, but on Halloween, Arjuna and I talked about like ghost stories and paranormal activity and stuff like that. And so that video is posted on my channel as well. And so I know, James, just from our friendship and what you've told me, that you have a handful of very strange, crazy, paranormal, ghost type encounters throughout your life. And so this video is essentially, it's going to be focused on you just telling, sharing what you would like to share with people as far as these experiences. To whatever capacity you want to go to, so yeah, I would love to, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, what you've experienced and everything. So I'll kind of pass the baton. One more thing that I'll say really quick too is James is a published author and has a book called Mom Through Eternity on Amazon. So I can post a link to that book in the description box below. In addition, James is working on other books as well. So when the time comes that those are ready to be published, I will have that link here as well. But it would mean the world to both of us, especially James, well, to both of us, if you were to support James's book on Amazon. So it's a very good book, very, very special message and sort of intuitive writing and guidance from spirit and contact with his mother after death. So yeah.
This is true.
I have a copy myself. Actually, my aunt is borrowing it right now. So she's been reading it too, but do have a copy and it is a very good book. So Bella thinks so too. Um, yeah. All right.
Wonderful.
Well, again, thank you, James, for being here. And I'll just pass it over to you if you want to get started. So just to clarify, we're talking about, or you're going to be talking about your just sort of like the craziest supernatural, paranormal, I don't know, poltergeist, whatever sort of experiences that you've had in your lifetime. So you can tell them in whatever order you want, however many you'd like to share, and yeah, and we'll kind of go from there. Go with that.
Okay, great. Well, I my life has been an interesting one. It seems like at various points in my life, I've had to deal with hauntings and with interacting with uh, spirits that are not that are discarnate, and just working with that space. And I said have to deal with. They weren't all bad. I did have some pretty terrifying experiences, but then I've had the type of experience where I think the spirit is just curious, or they just want to let us know that they're there, and they do various things to get our attentions. Um, One of the things is I've come to understand is that people who are very sensitive, especially, get interacted with a lot. It's sort of like when you're very sensitive, you're very open psychically. It's kind of like you're shining a beacon out to the spirit world,
Mm.
and they know which ones of us that are able to pick up on their presence and, are listening, basically.
Mhm.
Sometimes they just want to be heard. Um, but just starting from the beginning, I guess probably from about age 6 to maybe about age 10 or 11, um, in our childhood home, we had a ghost. We had something in our house that was very malevolent. I would get the sensation of just being watched, that feeling that you're not alone. You can feel an energy, and just feels like their eyes are kind of boring into you. And so that was pretty terrifying for a young child. I would get horrible nightmares. I mean, the type of nightmares that you just like, where you're in just a pure terror,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
you're just kind of overwhelmed, and just it's almost kind of a primal thing. That would happen. I have terrible nightmares. I have the feeling of being watched.
Mm.
um, and we had a little puppy dog at the time, and she would walk over and stand in certain parts of the room,
Mm.
uh, and she would just be looking off into the corner and start, growling.
Mm.
And I think that she was picking up on certain entities. So that was my introduction into the paranormal world at a very young age. The way that we dealt with that, I have an older sister who's 7 years older than I am.
Mm.
And there's a lot of methods you can use to kind of clear the space. She used what she knew, and she and I remember being in the bedroom, and she and I cuddled under the covers, and she would read the Bible. She read the Bible for hours every night, night after night after night. And I believe that she infused the area with some very positive energy, much, appeal to a higher power too.
Mm.
And that did the trick. It got rid of whatever was in there.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a good point to know, is that there are many methods for working with entities that may be trapped or that don't have our best interests in mind.
Yeah.
And so, but at any rate, yeah, so that was my introduction into that. Uh, so thankful that it finally left.
Yeah. Did you ever figure out what kind of entity it was or anything?
I had, yes, one of the dreams I had was still kind of gives me chills to even think about it to this day.
Mm.
But in my dream, I dreamt that on the wall was a painting of a woman, and she was dressed in old Victorian clothes.
Mhm.
And in the dream, I was looking up at the wall at this painting, when the uh, image, the lady in the painting, opened her mouth and started talking to me
Mm.
from this picture. And it was more so, even just, I mean, that's kind of creepy as it is, but
Mhm.
um, I felt such an absolute complete terror. Like, it was something
Mm.
very malevolent. And I would wake up in the middle of the night. I did it this night, but I would wake up some nights after having those horrible nightmares, and I would just be screaming. I mean, it would be like I didn't be in a total state of panic.
Yeah.
Um, so I wonder if it wasn't, the Victorian lady who was trapped
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
um, you know, got somehow called in or attracted to the space.
Yeah.
Um, the house was built in the 1950s, so
Mm.
it would have probably been an entity that found its way into the house. But
Yeah, sure.
anyway, yeah. So that's what I think it probably was. So fast forward a good number of years, I just got out of the military.
Mhm.
I was in my first apartment that I was in after I got out and got back into civilian life, and I I had that same feeling of being watched. It was really creepy apartment, and the one thing, and this almost sounds kind of like exorcist stuff, honestly, but it was very freaky. But I was sitting on my bed with my legs crossed. It was like a queen size bed,
Mhm.
and the bed started rocking back and forth and shaking, and
God.
it was very unnerving. It was quite scary, and I just yelled out. I yelled, "Stop!" And when I did, it stopped, it stopped rocking. Um,
Wow.
and which illustrates also sometimes, now not all spirits will respond to this, but sometimes it's amazing if you just ask the spirit to stop doing something, or you say, look, this is my space,
Hmm.
I don't want anything touched, moved, I don't, you just kind of put a boundary down. uh, Sometimes they totally respond to that. So it's worth it as just kind of a starter, just to try to see, if just ask them, look, this is my home, I'm here with my family, I
Sure.
need this to be clear, you can hang around but don't interfere, or however you want to put it. But
Yeah. Right.
yeah, so
That's
but that was
crazy though, that the bed was rocking back and forth. I mean, wow, like wow, just that's what was your, I mean, were you afraid? I'm sure, or like how long did that go on for? How long did that happen, the rocking?
well, there was only one instance of that happening.
Okay.
And like I said, I screamed out, "Stop!"
Right.
And
Yeah.
it did stop, but no, it was scary. It was
I
really scary.
bet.
Again, it was, it's like something you would see in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Not pleasant, not pleasant at all. So yeah, and basically it was like that until I moved on
Hmm.
to live somewhere else. So
Wow.
I hope whatever spirit it is either finds its peace, or, it doesn't become an issue for it to haunt continually in that location.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was that experience. And like I said, I've had a lot of experiences in my lifetime, and it makes sense because I am very sensitive.
Hmm.
And I think they pick up on the fact that I usually can feel them. I am able to, on occasions, actually pick up thought
Hmm.
forms, and and they would gravitate to that, of course.
Yeah. Do you think, excuse me, before you moved into that apartment, did you have any sort of feeling energetically that there was something there, or no?
I did later, after I had moved in, and I remember one night I got up and I went to the kitchen, went to the refrigerator, and I just had this feeling like someone was standing behind me looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first encounter at that
Yeah.
particular location, at that apartment. Yeah, stuff would move, stuff would rock, and I would just feel the energy of another entity being there.
Yeah.
um so yeah, yeah, that was interesting, probably, to say the least.
Definitely.
um so those are some of the scarier ones, I guess.
Mhm.
And I'm let's see, I'm kind of low tech. I've got my notebook here, so I've got
Yeah.
my notebook with some things I jotted down.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
did you have any questions, or should I just keep on going?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So those were the two more malevolent spirits that you said that you had encountered, right?
Right.
They felt malevolent, and I mean, was it was it how would you describe that malevolent energy? I mean, obviously the night terrors from your childhood, like that's clearly like malevolent, but with the rocking of the bed and the being watched, like, sometimes when we have that sensation of being watched, whether it's by a ghost or a spirit or whatever, it's that we're instilled with a level of fear because of the sense of the unknown, and not exactly knowing what it is, rather than being in fear because of a malevolent spirit or something that wants to do us harm. So I guess my question is, for the second spirit, how did you determine that it was a more malevolent spirit? Or was it more so just like your fear of the unknown, of like feeling watched and knowing like there's not another human in this space, and your bed rocking, were they just playing a game with you, or were they trying to startle you?
Right, right. That's a good question. And what you just said, was really right on. It's a great point, and that is sometimes if you have not experienced or gained a familiarity with the paranormal,
Mhm.
just the fact that you're picking up on something, it may not be bad, but it's just strange. It's not. It doesn't fall within the range of our normal day-to-day experiences. So it can be scary in the sense that it is fear of the unknown, and but you also can pick up on the general kind of countenance of the entity. But no, the feeling I got for that particular entity was just kind of like, who are you? Why the heck are you in my space?
Mm.
um so yeah, that was it. Just who are you? Why are you here?
Okay.
And almost like it wasn't particularly happy that I was in the apartment. So
Yeah.
the feeling I got.
Yeah, gotcha. And was this an old apartment building or was it relatively new, or do you know?
Yeah, it was a little bit of an older apartment
Mhm.
complex. This was back in the early 1990s, so probably about 1992 roughly. I
Yeah. Mhm.
got out of the service in late 91, so it was 1992.
Mhm.
So, and even then, the building had been there for quite some time. It was an older apartment building, but it was, I mean, it was cozy. It was a wonderful location. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that was that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you might have been actually going there, but yeah, places that have been lived in and had a lot of energy go through,
Mm.
um, uh, there's a greater propensity to maybe have something residual or some energy or even a conscious being that is still there that has not moved on or moved found their way out of the location where they are.
Sure, sure. And how long did you live in that apartment for?
I was there about a year.
Okay. Yeah.
And then after that, I did, needless to say, I did not renew my
Yeah,
lease.
right.
Um,
Yeah. There for
so
the lease term, and that's it. Yeah.
yeah, but I did learn later in life. I think part of it is just my familiarity with the paranormal and having had a lot of experiences, but also being intuitive and being able to feel that not all of the experiences that are paranormal or you might consider it a haunting, not all of them uh, feel negative or malevolent or scary.
Right.
Sometimes they are just curious,
Mhm.
or they are in a space where they're pretty much okay with you being there, but they let you know every now and then that that they're there, and
Yeah.
that kind of characterized the latter part of my life, moving forward out of the 1990s and
Okay.
onto where we are now. So,
Yeah. If you
mhm.
have another one to share, go ahead and go into it.
Okay, well, the lady I was married with at the time, we loved New Mexico,
Mhm.
and we went to have a week's vacation in New Mexico,
Mhm.
and it's in case you've never been there, it's a very spiritual place. You can really feel the vibe of the land. You can feel that Native American vibe. It's really a wonderful and unique place.
Mhm.
Well, we were driving around in one of the national forests, and we'd been driving for most of the day, got kind of late, and we were trying to find a campground there in the national park, and everything was full. We couldn't find anything, and we started losing sunlight. It was getting to be dusk, and
Mhm.
we still had whatever we were gonna camp. We needed to set up a uh our tent, and
Yeah.
just
Campsite.
so we started getting a little concerned because the sun was going down, and uh my then wife said, well, something, as a taxpayer, I've heard that any area within the national park area is, we have the right to be there. So what we did is we drove down this road that went deep into the forest, and it was not an established campground, but we were tired, we didn't have anywhere else to go. So we pulled the car up and we started walking into the forest. We found a nice little clearing, and so we put up the tent and crashed out for the night, went to sleep.
Mhm.
And about maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, it's interesting. My then wife, she didn't even wake up. It didn't even stir her, but I was kind of a little bit wide awake, and I got woken out of a deep sleep. And I heard in the distance these footsteps coming towards the tent, and stepping on basically the twigs and leaves and other foliage that was there. You could definitely tell it was like human footsteps.
Mhm.
And I heard it a little distance away, and the steps got closer and closer, and also the feeling of presence of someone being there, that feeling you get.
Yeah.
um but it stopped right in front of the tent and just stood there. And I wasn't thinking at this point that it was a ghost. I just thought, oh my gosh, I hope there's not some malcontent here, some creepy person that's gonna, hit us over the head or knife us and take
Right.
all our try to rob us. So I
Yeah.
was terrified. So I couldn't just sit there in the tent forever. So what I did was I opened the tent flap, and I, as fast as I could, I jumped out of the tent. And I thought maybe I might have to just put my fist up and fight.
Yeah.
But when I leapt out of the tent, there was nothing there at all. I shined
Mhm.
the flashlight in all directions, did a big 360. I
Mm.
shined the flashlight, and there was nothing there, um, in physical. I'll put it that way. But there was deafening the feeling of presence, and uh, you could hear the footsteps. Sounded like human footsteps walking through the forest. Crunch, crunch, crunch as it was walking. Um,
Sure.
and but that yeah that scared us. I have a friend of mine who's a Native American who lives in the Nambe Pueblo area reservation, and he told me, he says probably it was one of our guardian spirits.
Mhm.
That he says they were probably just curious to find, why were you on their land and what are you doing there? Who are you?
Yeah.
So that made sense to me,
Yeah.
but it was pretty creepy.
Yeah. And were you around other campgrounds, or were you sort of secluded on your own with your family, or what?
Yes, we were secluded because we
Yeah.
all of the campgrounds there, the proper campgrounds, were full.
Right. Yeah.
And so we just, out of desperation, we just drove real deep. I think it was like kind of a service road,
Mhm.
and we just, because it was just a dirt, you know, service road. So we followed it pretty deep into the forest until we found a clearing, and had set up our
Wow.
tent. But yeah, there was no other campers around us. It was nothing. We were just in the deep forest camping out, which is kind of cool. But that experience was a little bit unnerving. So
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And were you just there the one night?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
just the one night. Uh-huh.
that's good. Yeah. I
And I
imagine
I
after
was
hearing the footsteps, I would leave the second day too.
right, right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we just stayed there one night, and then we went on and found some other campgrounds, and
Mhm.
just made the rest of our trip that way. But it was yeah, it was unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, goodness. Yeah, that would freak me out. I would definitely assume that it was some, kind of crazy person coming to murder my family, and because of
Right,
course your fears are going to run rampant in the nighttime, especially in the middle of the forest. The forest is a dangerous place, especially in the dark if you can't see, if you're not prepared. So, but interesting that it was on like the Native American sort of grounds, and that it was probably a spirit too. And you said, was that at like 3 in the morning? You said, did you say that about this story, or?
yes, yeah, it was
Yeah,
something like that, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
So, and
Typical
that was
spirit hours.
yes, yes. And my original fear was, just like you said, wondering if it was just, a person who is coming to rob us or had ill intent for us. But
Right.
then when I jumped out of the tent, and there was nobody there at all. Then I was like, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, and you
Uh,
didn't hear any footsteps run off or anything, right? It wasn't like somebody was fleeing in the other direction when you jumped out of the tent. It just
right,
vanished.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because and I could hear the footsteps walking right up to the tent. I mean, it walked right up to the tent, and when I jumped out, yeah, there was nothing there, and I didn't hear anything run or scurry after that. So
Yeah. Hmm. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty creepy. But maybe they
yes,
realized that you were that you were a good energy and just there protecting your family, and maybe you were in a zone where, not, I guess, too many people wander off into, because all the other campgrounds were full. So maybe they were just like, well, let's make sure these guys aren't up to any good, let's make sure they're malevolent, or excuse me, benevolent humans. So,
hmm
yeah.
right. I think you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I kind of took away from that experience.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, they're just coming to check on us. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
but
good. It's good that, I guess, that they're checking out to see what kind of people are on their lands. And maybe, maybe if you weren't um a good person, or if you were had ill intentions, then it would have been a completely different experience for both of you, or for you mostly, I guess. The spirit could have acted differently, but I'm glad that they were just kind of sniffing you out and seeing what was up energetically. So
right, absolutely. And there's almost a sense of relief knowing that it wasn't a person in the physical. I
oh
thought,
yeah.
well, it was still scary, but I thought, oof, okay, at least we're not, going to be the victim of some crime.
Right, right. I
So,
mean, humans are scarier than ghosts, honestly. Like, I would much rather be faced with like a ghost in that setting than a human with a knife or an axe or a whatever, Like, I
mhm,
mean, yeah, humans are scarier, to be honest. So once you get familiar
absolutely.
with the unknown, it's like, okay, like as long as I can sense that you're not gonna hurt me or possess me, really, then you're fine. So, but humans, no,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Wow.
This
Okay.
is absolutely true. Yeah. And yeah, what you're saying is absolutely true. And I have another one for you. This is one of the more uh, w- interesting ones that I've had.
Mhm.
I had a friend of mine who had a home out in the country,
Mhm.
and it was pretty far off the beaten path, so it was deep into the country, and I love to go out there just to relax and be in the country, and sometimes I'd spend the night there. So we were sitting at the kitchen table, and me and my friend Matthew were just talking, and we heard the sound plain as day, like a disembodied voice. It didn't say anything, but we heard this very definable whistle, like it was
Mhm.
whistling at us. It
Hmm.
happened like twice, and I asked my friend Matt. I said, "You know what that is?" He's like, "No." He says, "But it whistled again." So we stood up from where we were sitting, and I took what I have seen from some of the paranormal TV shows,
Mhm.
and I said, if that was you whistling,
Mhm.
please whistle again, just one time, please whistle.
Mhm.
And whistled, and I okay. And then
Mhm.
I said, now I really believe you if you can whistle 3 times for me. Um,
Wow.
and out of thin air, 3 whistles, 1, 2, 3, 3 whistles, and his house was the where it was beautiful, but I would always like whenever I tell him goodnight, and it was usually after dark, I'd get in the car and head back out, drive out from the ranch, and get back on the highway.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of times I would feel like something had followed me. Like
Mhm.
I could feel a presence in the car until I got off the ranch and was a good ways the way down the road. Then it kind of dissipated. But and another time at his house, same country home. I was walking around. It was nighttime, and I was just carrying some stuff out the car, and I heard rustling through the bushes, and it sounded like someone was shuffling and raced up and walked right up to me very quickly. And I thought it was my friend Matt. I turned around, and then when I didn't see anything, having had other paranormal experiences there, I knew that I just kind of got rushed by something.
Yeah.
Um, that
Mm.
that was that was kind of surprising and interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely. And did this one feel malevolent or benevolent, or, was it just kind of hanging out with you?
Yeah, it didn't feel. I can't say that it was real malevolent or anything like that.
Yeah.
Uh, I think its attitude was sort of like, okay, you're here on our land. What are you doing here? Not that anything bad would happen to me, but just like, okay, letting me know that I was on its turf.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the way it felt. A little intimidating, just knowing that. Um, I I don't know that it felt well, that it was, wasn't welcoming or anything like that.
Right.
Um, Whereas there are the hauntings I've experienced before where I did not feel anything negative at all.
Yeah.
So,
Gosh, yeah.
um,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty to hear the audible, you know, s- to hear something audible is pretty crazy experience. I mean, I've heard some audible, laughs or voices at times, and that disembodied voice, like you said, is enough to send chills up your spine. So, but
hmm
to hear the whistle, it's especially pretty cool, and also, excuse me, also kind of frightening when you ask them to do it again, and then they do it again, and you're like, oh snap, like that means
right.
something's there. So, yeah, that can definitely be unsettling. But it's interesting. It's like these, you kind of have a knack for finding these places, or just being attracted to them, or something, or maybe they, as you said, they feel comfortable, the spirits feeling comfortable, um or not even, maybe they try to do this sort of interaction with other people, but since you're sensitive to it and open to it, you're actually able to receive sort of the communication that they're trying to communicate.
hmm
Like maybe somebody else would do that, like hear this whistling sensation or whistling sound and brush it off as like a figment of their imagination or something. It's just,
hmm
that's not real. I'm not going to entertain that because that would be too scary and too weird if I did. So, um, but when you actually set aside those, when you're open minded about those sort of things, you can kind of figure out like, okay, that was like a real, real ghost or a real experience that I just had. Like that was indescribable, practically unseeable, unknown. So yeah, very fascinating. So the whistling was a pretty crazy experience. So what other, I'm curious what more experiences you've had that you'd like to share.
Well, we can fast forward to the current, my current life as it is.
Mm.
Um, in the house that I'm staying in at the moment, um, we get activity every now and then. But this activity is entity or entities that really don't have anything bad or anything negative that they're trying to, they're not trying to scare you or do anything uh, of that sort. But I think they're just basically letting us know that we're around, we're here, we're sharing the space with you. A while back, I was doing some magic that used the Goofer dust. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Goofer dust.
I have heard of it. I haven't used it, but I know about it. Yeah.
They use it. It's used in hoodoo, and it is very powerful. And I don't know it's kind of dark, so you want to be careful when you're working with Goofer dust.
Sure.
Um, I and because it is known to cause illnesses, to cause people's lives just to go haywire,
Mm.
go out of control, or it even, uh, I'm told, is sometimes can actually bring physical death. So goofer dust is nothing to play around with. I'd gotten some just to have on hand in case, God forbid, if there's any instance where I was being threatened or my family was being threatened, I could use it. But I got some goofer dust from a good supplier that she makes her own, and it's very potent. So I had the goofer dust, and you don't want to have that or any kind of the oils or powders that are more on the dark side. It's good not to have them like in your bedroom or
Mm.
where you want to have peace. So I took the goofer dust and I put it out in the garage. What I did is I smudged with sage the entirety of the house and a little bit of the garage, but I didn't really do the garage much because there's like
Yeah.
kerosene out there and stuff like that. I didn't want to
Yeah.
bring a smoking, smoldering piece of sage out there. But at any rate,
Sure.
so at one point, this is really interesting. When I still had the goofer dust there, my sister went. I live with my sister in the family house.
Mhm.
So she told me, she said, "There's something weird in the garage." And I went out to the garage and I looked, and there was a big puddle of, it looked like antifreeze is what it looked like. It was a fairly good size, really good sized puddle of this kind of viscous, kind of a little bit thicker substance. It was opaque and it was tinted kind of green.
Mm.
It looked like someone had just poured a thing of antifreeze on the floor.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I told my sister because she, honestly, she gets pretty spooked about things like that.
Yeah.
But I looked at it and I knew what it was. I said, "This is ectoplasm," you know?
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, I had been, before the puddle of unidentifiable liquid showed up, there had been other things in the garage that had been moved and knocked over. And I took a camera out there at one point and I caught several orbs moving around. Um,
Mm.
but ectoplasm, just for your audience,
Yeah.
it is a physical manifestation of spirits, usually during like seances, or if there's any place that's like kind of haunted or you're trying to move an entity on.
Hmm.
Um, and I know this sounds really, like I said, out there, but I looked at it and just said, "I know what this is. This is ectoplasm."
Wow.
So even after we cleaned it up, there is a spot in our garage uh, where the concrete is tinted a lot lighter
Mm.
than the rest of the concrete floor. So it actually kind of changed the, I guess it maybe discolored it. So there was that. I had since used one of the things that we talked about in the past. It's a ghost hunting app called the
Yeah.
Mag Cam. The
Yeah.
Mag Cam.
Uh-huh.
It's by a company called Digital Dowsing,
Okay.
and yeah, what it does is you hold up your phone and you can set it to various levels of sensitivity. So
Mhm.
what it does is when you're holding around, you know, scanning, the area where you think there might be some activity, when you get a significant electromagnetic spike, EMF spike,
Mhm.
it automatically snaps a picture at that moment. And I've gotten pictures of a female, dark, shadowy figure. It was obviously female. And
Mhm.
then there's one picture, and you never know, maybe at a later date, we could post it or something. We do
Yeah.
another collaboration video. And there was a big face up in the upper left hand corner of the picture that was snapped by the
Yeah.
mag.
Oh,
It
wow.
was it was obviously it was a face of somebody.
Hey guys, I just wanted to add in here really quick that James sent me pictures of these events that he's talking about, and I'm going to add them in here. And the first time that I looked at the photo before he circled anything, I honestly struggled to see the face that he was talking about. I'll show you the picture that where I thought was the face. And then he circled it for me and showed me the actual face, and now it's like you can't unsee it. So inserting both of those in here for you guys to see because it looks crazy like a scary face. I wonder if it's like a hoodoo spirit since he was using Goofer dust at the time, but wanted to outline this for you guys so you were able to see it a bit more as well.
That was weird. We so that did happen. And I went ahead and I found somewhere else that I could or give away the Goofer dust I had.
Sure.
And some people, I know some people are going to hear this and say, "Oh, yeah, I've never had that experience with this. I've, it's all about intention," and that's true. But all I can say is, all I can say is that that was the only factor that had changed. It was just like when I brought the Goofer dust in, started getting all kinds of activities. My sister and I will be sitting at the couch, and there's been a couple times that we've had like an empty bowl sitting on the coffee table,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally just slid right across the table and fell on the floor.
Oh my
You
God.
know, right in front of my eyes.
Wow.
I had a little Tupperware container sitting next to my easy chair
Yeah.
in the living room. This is a whole other time, and it got literally thrown across the room.
Oh God.
I had a big lantern. I was going to put it outside. You use it to put a candle in, so you can take the lantern safely outside and give
Mm-hmm.
yourself some nice lighting.
Sure.
And that was big and heavy, and that dumped over one night. And I had it sitting in the living room, and it just went wham. We walked in there. There's
Man.
no explanation for it being
Yeah. Wow.
pushed off. So, but when I did move the Goofer dust on, a lot of that stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Except we do still have a little residual stuff that happens. But a good point for your viewers is I always tell people try not to let yourself get into that fearful state, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like once you start getting really fearful and really spooked and your fears start running away with you, it kind of cuts down your psychic defenses. When you are in a very fearful state, your electromagnetic field, your aura, actually is very permeable, and
Yes.
they can get you. So it's kind of like a child or a bully that wants to kind of poke at you and get you to react.
Yeah.
With these experiences now, I don't feel anything bad, but my attitude is when something slides off a table or knocks over and there's no explanation for it, my attitude is like kind of like, okay, I hear you, you're here,
Yeah.
no problem, I'm not going to worry about it. And then there's no problem,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
every once in a, but you can't let yourself get fearful. And you can just talk to it, and sometimes it'll be respectful, and you'll say, you're kind of scare me when you do this, if you could please not do that, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
stop occasionally. So yeah, that takes us to the present, my present life.
Yeah.
We still get little things that happen in the house, but it's okay. Don't feel anything bad whatsoever. And it's just, I guess, one of those things, being a sensitive soul. And you know uh, I think they kind of sometimes get attracted to me, honestly. So
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it. And in that video I did with Arjuna, I mentioned that time that you were at my house back in Dallas, and the experience that we had there with the sensation in the kitchen, and that paper, that kind of turned horizontal, and the mag cam went off, that same app that you mentioned, and that house was especially haunted. And there were times, like you said, where, I mean, I tried not to be in fear, but it really, made a difference, how I felt in the house and how I feel everything responded to me energetically when I was firm with my boundaries, when I would go into the parts of the house that I would feel this energy the most. And I was like, you know what? Like, you're not going to bother me today. Like, I'm just doing my laundry. I'm not here to listen to this. Like basically like F off, like get out of here. Like I'm not susceptible to this right now. Like you can't mess with my energy. And I would sometimes picture like a sort of white force field or veil around myself. Not necessarily always white, but sometimes white, just as a means of protection. And that really made it, just seeming like you're in control, right? Like just because there's something there that you can't see doesn't mean like, oh, like because that fear, like you said, lowers your vibration and makes you more susceptible to outside energetic attacks or psychic attacks. So if you are the kind of person that's sensitive to this stuff and has a lot of these experiences, I think it's wise to, learn about them and to not be in fear over something that you can't necessarily see or touch, because that fear, the imagination can run off with fear, and just take hold of that, and eventually you'll the fear is scarier than what's actually there, so it just takes a little bit of like breathing, deep breathing, and like thinking and realizing like, okay, maybe this is, just something normal or good. But do you think, before we close and stuff, do you think there's like a reason overall, other than you being like a sensitive soul, like have these experiences shaped you in any way, like shaped your spirituality or shaped your interest in the occult or anything like that?
It certainly has, yes, because it just kind of validates that there's more out there than what we can see and feel by normal, our quote unquote normal senses. So yeah, it definitely cues me into the fact that we're just one part of this universe. There are many beings, like the Irish say. I'm Scots Irish
Hmm.
by heritage, and the Irish are very intense and in touch with the other side, and so
Right.
maybe I kind of inherited some of that, you
Yeah.
know, sense of not getting spooked. Like, because when it happens now, like I said, I kind of see it this way. It's sort of like again, like the little child that's kind of pestering the kid, and if they get a rise out of them, then they kind of like, oh, I got a rise out of them. And then but when I experience something in the present day, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, hi. I'm like, you're not scaring me, but hi, how
Yeah.
are you? See you later.
Right.
And then it seems like the activity goes down, and like almost like they couldn't get a rise out of me, so
On
they're
to the
just,
next person. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
don't feel anything bad in my current dwelling, so
Good.
that's a good thing.
Good.
But yeah, then I could probably even go another hour time. I mean, there's probably stories, and I know of stories that just because of time, we probably
Yeah.
haven't gotten to, but a lot of experiences, and yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and a
Yeah.
very interesting life. So
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, thank you for sharing those stories, and maybe another time you can come on and do another video. I know you're trying to write a book about some of these experiences too. So, if you ever want to like do a promotion on that, and eventually we can like link that together and stuff. But yeah, but thank you for sharing these crazy stories and just sharing with the viewers and getting that sort of understanding out there of having these experiences and like consciously choosing to not be afraid of them, right? And to just almost, it's, you know, it's happened so often for you that it's like part of your normal life, it seems like.
Right.
You know, which maybe it's a message to like incorporate the normalcy of this, of these sort of events, you know, like it's not so unheard of, it's not, it's things that happen commonly, especially if you're open to it, sensitive to it, receptive to it, and it's not something to be afraid of every time. I mean, sometimes perhaps yes, but the way that, like, you know, ghost hunters portrays it and other things. I mean, Ghost Hunters, I think, goes to like haunted places where, you know, it's, anyone would be scared there. But just in,
Right.
you know, other settings, there's not always a reason to be afraid of the unknown. So thank you for coming onto the channel today and taking the time to tell these stories, and I hope other people, you know, found this interesting too, and we'll definitely have you back on the show sometime.
Great. I really, really appreciate it. And just one real little quickie. I found this to be very interesting. I have an 11-year-old daughter. When
Mhm.
she was much younger, she actually um, uh, had some experiences with
Mhm.
the other side, with the paranormal. And I try to raise her, you know, so that she's spiritually conscious and doesn't, you know, fear the paranormal or the occult or what have you.
Mhm.
There was once she was telling me about an experience she had, which obviously was like kind of a little bit of a kind of haunted situation. And I told her, I said, sweetheart, I said, whatever you do, I know it may be hard, but try to not let yourself get spooked by it.
Mhm.
And I, you know, I was saying this, and she very confidently looked at me and said, Dad, it doesn't scare me. And I just
Aw.
thought, "Ah, yes, that's my girl."
Yeah. Aw, that's cute. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
she's
but
got
I
a knack for it.
absolutely very spiritual young lady too, very sensitive. But
Yeah.
and just for your viewers, in conclusion, I'm working on getting my own YouTube channel. I'll probably launch that at the beginning of probably in the new year.
Mhm.
And then I've got a couple more books in the works. I am going to write one and probably document a lot of what we talked about tonight and give
Mhm.
some further stories and information about the paranormal. And then I also have a book I'm currently working on having
Mhm.
to do with extraterrestrials and
Yes.
uh, just that whole arena, which is very interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
So those are two projects I've got working. But at any rate, yeah, I really appreciate you having me on the show. I always love doing a collaboration video with you.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely enjoyable. I really liked it, and I hope your audience finds it useful as well.
Yes, yeah, me too. Yeah, I think they will, and I would love to have you back to talk about these extraterrestrial experiences at some point too, because I don't talk about ETs that much on my channel, but they're welcome here. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, definitely excited for that book and for all your other creative projects, and you know, I'll link your current book just so everyone can find that and find, you know, find you on Amazon and find your author page and stuff, and yeah, and thank you for your time and thank you for your stories. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Yeah, of course. And thank you everyone for watching. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, and follow James's author page on Amazon as well. So thank you
Mhm.
guys.